Alright, I wanted to start this video off covering talents and glyphs. As you can see, running Tiger's Lust, Chi Wave, Chi Brew, Leg Sweep, Healing Elixirs, Rushing Jade Wind, Chi Explosion. And the reason for these picks are Tiger's Lust mainly for the extra mobility. Same with Rushing Jade Wind. In the second video here, I'm dueling a rogue. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best pick for all circumstances, but it provides passive damage without too much extra work. And based on the three available right now, it's the one I prefer currently. And then Chi Explosion is a pretty obvious one. Same with Chi Wave. Chi Explosion pretty much makes the spec. There's a lot of cases, as you can see just from this first video, where I can't quite keep up with him. Mobility is definitely lacking right now, especially versus people like mages or rogues that can pretty much move wherever they want, whenever they want. Luckily, we still have the Crackling Jade Lightning. It makes such a huge difference, especially combined with Chi Explosion. You can essentially DPS from range. It's pretty mana intensive, and it's not super spammable. But as you can see right here, I mean, it allows you to still keep pressure and therefore keep up healing, which is essentially the main role of this spec. In situations where you wouldn't otherwise running Pool of Mist or the other one, the breath. This is the second mage duel I've done a video on. I've done 5 or 6 total since I got in beta about a month ago. Mages are kind of a tricky animal, mostly because of the mobility thing, and you know, as you can see there, being able to silence you pretty regularly, it locks you out of Chi Explosion and most of your mobility abilities. But in general, it's not a very hard matchup. It's a little harder in arenas with support. The spec is a little susceptible to burst. I'm slowly finding ways to get around it, between, you know, opening up with Crackling Jade Lightning into a Chi Explosion, where you get the ring around you, and then using Detonate Chi after that. It provides a pretty huge burst heal, sometimes upwards to about half my HP, which is really huge right now. When, I mean, you can see Surging Mist is healing for about 10, 12, 15k, somewhere in that range. Being able to pop up for 40 or 50. Okay, it's healing for 20. Excuse me. But it doesn't make that huge of a dent compared to, you know, some of the other options, and you can do it in quick succession 2 or 3 times and get a huge amount of orbs down. I mean, it can be an instant full heal, combined with new Life Cocoon being such a low cooldown. Those are the biggest tools that I've found so far to mitigate some of the weakness against opening burst. It's also hard in beta, right before the end when I was filming this, because both Ferals, Rets, and DKs are a little over the top. I mean, getting hit for an upwards of 80 or 90,000 from a Ferocious Bite from a Feral coming right out of stealth, it's almost impossible to deal with. So I think once that gets toned down, the burst weakness will be mitigated a little bit, because those are really the classes I'm having the most trouble with. But everybody's having trouble with them right now from what I've seen. Again, with the mage, the hardest part is just keeping up on him. Fire is pretty bad. I think frost is easier personally. Being able to break slows makes a big difference against frost. But frost also has more burst, at least in the gear level currently available on beta. The other thing that's really making a huge difference is the reduced global cooldown being back to 1.5 seconds. It slows the spec down a lot in instances where normally you'd be able to get off 2 and 3 abilities. You're getting off 1, maybe 2, and it hurts the burst ability. I really think that haste and crit will be the 2 main stats for the spec, both normal mist weaving and fist weaving both. Because you're getting essentially free additional healing from haste via auto attacks as long as you can stick on a target. It'll remain to be seen, but I have a feeling, at least with the state that I last played, that's what it'll be. Also, I just want to point out how hard Chi Explosion is hitting for. I mean, it's hitting for 9k with 1 Chi. I mean, it does a lot of damage, especially if you can get Rising Sun Kick up first and you can get a quick, pop double Chi Brew twice, or hit Chi Brew twice and hit a Chi Explosion. I mean, you're hitting for 40 and 50k within a couple of globals. The spec feels really good, especially the fist weaving side. I'm really impressed with the changes that they've done to it to kind of streamline it, and I mean, it feels like maybe a enhancement shaman that's spec'd out for healing. I mean, but with better healing output than you could ever get with an enhancement shaman. All right, this next duel is Combat Rogue. This was the part 2 video I put up about a week or so ago. I believe this guy was running in PvE gear, so I don't know that this is a fair comparison. PvP gear is a lot better for dueling, because I believe it was kicking in the upped eye level for PvP, and it's much higher than the PvE gear available. But even still, I mean, if you're talking Battlegrounds playing against players in PvE gear, I mean, this is what this scenario is going to be. Rushing Jade Wind is invaluable versus rogues, especially assassination rogues that are running the Vanish Glyph, because it keeps them from being able to re-stealth, because they basically have a 3-second window, 3-second vanish window, but if they can drop combat, they can re-stealth from vanish manually, and it'll keep them out of stealth. It's also good for blocking openers. It really is my preference. I don't know that it's the best, as I said before, but I think it offers more utility than either of the other ones, and it's completely passive for situations where you can't necessarily get quite in melee range, like right here, or I can't auto attack, but I'm getting Rushing Jade Wind procs. And the healing it provides is excellent. So Demo Lock, they're pretty strong from what I've seen playing some of my other characters, but I think this is probably one of the easiest duels out of the 5 that I have up right here. I was just be able to block all of his CC, all like stick on him, because they have, you know, roughly the equivalent mobility to a Mistweaver right now, if not less, and I was able to stick on him no problem. And I also, part of it is I don't think anybody's taking Fistweaver seriously. I did 5 duels in this series. I'm gonna have more up once I get to 100, hopefully in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, I rolled through, I think, 20 or 30 people. I had 2 losses. Both were Rep Pallies and Ferals. But I dueled 1 each and lost pretty quickly to both. But everybody else, I mean, I dueled warriors and rogues and locks and mages and shamans and other stuff, and I had no problems with anything. As long as I can stick on them and I watch for cooldowns and deal accordingly, I'd almost say it's unbalanced how good fist weaving is right now. I mean, I can do roughly equivalent damage to a DPS and still heal almost all of it. I mean, I'd say you get about 75% of what you could put out just healing, maybe less, maybe more like 60, and probably 75% of what a DPS, a full DPS, could put out. It feels really fluid. I think if we got a slow, it would make the spec like much more fluid, much more streamlined. Because right now there's a lot of spots, as you can see from these 3 duels, where you just can't stick in melee range. It's impractical. Alright, this 4th one versus a Shadow Priest. This was probably the hardest duel that I had that I didn't just straight lose. I mean, Red Pally and Feral, both I lost within 10-20 seconds. But this one was really the only duel where I had a legitimate contest with someone. And I think people were complaining that Shadow Priests were a little strong. They're putting out a lot of healing for being what they are. But this duel ends in a draw. And I don't think that he was putting out any more healing than I was. But as a full-fledged DPS, that might be a little on the higher end. The hardest part about this duel, though, was him popping into a Spectral Guise, and I have no good way to break it. Again, rushing Jade One helped a lot, which is one of the reasons why I run it in all of these duels, even though I maybe get some more output from one of the other talents. It just offers like a lot of hidden utility that's not very obvious. But I just couldn't stick on him with the Spectral Guise. He'd root Spectral Guise, run away, pop 2 flash shields, and be up 40k, and I just couldn't stick on him. As you can see, every time he'd just do that, and it just limited my ability to do enough damage. And I probably misplayed this a little bit, but I mean, this was the first duel versus a Shadow Priest that I had, and I think I probably could have won this if I had been better prepared. But they're definitely one of the harder matchups that I played, and they're definitely hard in 2s and 3s because of, you know, their off healing ability and just overall damage. And not being able to dispel on them makes such a huge difference. I think, though, with a good partner, I could have easily dealt with it. I'm gonna speed through all of this right here. This went on for, I think, 15 or 20 minutes straight. Just back and forth, the same thing, where he'd you know, slow me down, root spectral guys, heal up, and back and forth, and he couldn't do enough damage to me. I mean, he got me low once or twice, and I got him down to 40k, 50k, 2 or 3 times, but I just couldn't finish him off, partially because I kept running because I was using Crackling Jade Lightning a lot, and it's really a mana hog. I mean, mana regen is good enough that you can use it here and there when necessary, but that's literally all I was able to really put consistent damage up with was Crackling Jade Lightning and Chi Explosion, and it would just run me dry. I do have to say though that mana regen right now it feels really solid, especially playing Mistweaving. It's a little thin while Fist Weaving, but you get so many stacks of Mana Tea from critting and just general uptime that you get it all back. I don't recommend running the glyph to get 2 charges personally, because there's a lot of times where you just don't have the spare global cooldown. Maybe some people that are more used to it. I don't run it on live right now, but if maybe you're more used to it, it might be a good option. I find that it's easier to take a 5-second break, chug down 10 stacks, and than to constantly tap it every 10 seconds. I was generating too many charges as well a lot of the times to get away with using it every 10 seconds. I ran it for a couple arenas I did earlier the same night, and I was constantly at 20 stacks and I was trying to keep it on cooldown. So I don't know, it might work for some people, but again, it's not my preference. Alright, this next duel is going to be a Fury Warrior. Again, I believe he was PvE geared. But this again was one of the easier duels. I mean, I put it on the same level as a rogue. You're simply outlasting him. Like, he's putting up way more damage than me overall, but I could mitigate most of it, and by the time he got through Life Cocoon, he was halved and I was still at full health, and I was easily able to out heal the damage he was putting out. With a partner in a 2v2 3v3 situation, this might be a little tougher dealing with 2 DPS. Again, burst is a weakness. I think it has the opportunity to do really well as a 2s lineup. I don't know about 3s. I don't know if that has enough output. It would probably work with a good hybrid comp, maybe like a Beast Cleave or something with a Ret Pally or Enhancement Shaman, or Feral even, who can put out some passive healing and be somewhat self-sustaining. But I think it's in a really good spot. I think people are going to enjoy it. The expansion's dropping tonight in just a few hours, so I would look out for it and I'd try it out. It's a little weaker at 90 currently, but it feels really good at 100, and I think people are gonna really enjoy it. And subscribe for some more videos. I'm gonna have more content coming out, especially with the expansion dropping. I'm gonna try to finish up this duel series over the next month once I hit 100, so look out for that.